Welcome to Alternate Reality.
So, if you're going to go to circus and you really don't want to spend any money, that's where you go to. If you're really that cheap, God bless you. I'd rather sleep on the street.
And with that, folks, you are once again listening to Uncle Bo's Tales of Las Vegas Fun here on the Alternate Reality. Comic Book Man here. We are going to be talking today about Image Comics. Why are we going to be talking about Image Comics?
It's their anniversary.
2017. 2017 is the 25th anniversary of Image Comics, and we haven't done that yet. We haven't really talked about Image Comics and the anniversary of Image, so we're going to talk about that a little bit, where they came from, for those of you who aren't old like some of the rest of us. Yeah, exactly. You two guys, you read a fair number of Image Comics.
Well, with Image over the years, I've picked and choose a lot more.
Well, I pick and choose, but Rod Flash here doesn't buy everything either. And to mention that, I'm being joined today by Bo, of course.
How you doing, kids?
And Rod Flash. Say hello to everyone, Rod.
Hello, Rod.
I'm not going for the joke. Don't even ask. I'm not going for the joke. Not going to.
Damn.
And one of the reasons Rod is here today, outside of the fact he's just a wonderful human being, Rod was in the trenches when Image first came out.
Oh my God! Yes, I was.
Let me roll back the clock a little bit to the late '80s, early '90s. Over at Marvel, you had Rob Liefeld working on X-Force.
Yep.
Some of you may remember the first appearance of Deadpool and New Mutants.
And Cable.
100.
No, it was '98, I think, wasn't it?
No, it was 100.
100?
Yeah, it was 100.
Was it? Okay. You had Rob Liefeld doing that. You had Eric Larson drawing Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was yours.
He had taken that over from
Todd McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane, who had his own Spider-Man book because he'd done such a great job with the Amazing
Sales were
Spider-Man.
going good. So he said, "Well, give Todd his own book."
They gave Todd his own book,
We'll let Todd write a book, and they went.
which he could write and draw.
Yeah.
Which is what he did. You had Jim Lee on the X-Men.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, he got his own X book with Chris Claremont, for which he did the first 2 issues, I believe.
First issue was huge.
First issue was huge. He did the second issue too. You had Will Sportaccio working on Uncanny X-Men.
X-Men.
You
The
had
forgotten member of the Image team.
You had Jim Valentino. He was writing Guardians of the Galaxy at that time. And you had Mark Silvestri working on Wolverine.
Yeah.
And all these guys, because of their work, was making just an absolute ton of money for Marvel. This was also the time when Marvel was a publicly traded stock option. And I remember going to Friendly Frank's Comics, because he was my distributor at that time, and talking to good old JR and Dan, I believe it was, behind the counter then. And we were talking about how much Marvel stock had gone up this week compared to the previous week, and where we thought the ceiling would be for all this stuff. And all this was happening primarily due to the creators I just mentioned and their efforts at Marvel, and how they had dragged the industry through their work out of sales doldrums of the late 70s into the early 80s and into Marvel really kicking butt. These folks were working on these books right after the Jim Shooter era.
Yeah.
Jim Shooter had come and gone by 86, I believe.
Yeah, I think he went over to Valiant after that point.
Well, he started putting the wheels together for Valiant. I don't think Valiant debuted until 90, I think, or maybe 89.
He was doing something at that point.
And the Jim Shooter era was when Jim decided to basically do a lot of what Marvel's been doing recently with the characters, and that's take all the established characters and totally change them over. Spidey got the black costume, Hulk went from green to gray, Captain America became the Captain, got defrocked from his red, white, and blue costume and put on this nifty black and red and white costume. You had Thor in armor and a messed up face, so he wore a half helmet covering half his face. And you had Tony Stark in Transformer armor. And after he had left, they slowly went back and reset everything to the way it was over at Marvel for the most part, which is what Marvel always does. They change things, they keep it going for a couple of years.
Chief after that point. Was it Roy Thomas again?
No, I think it was Tom.
Or was it Tom DeFalco?
It was Tom DeFalco. Because Tom DeFalco is about to factor into this story. The Image creators at this point, they knew that they were making all this money, the future Image creators knew they were making all this money for Marvel. And so they start talking amongst themselves, and they said, we're doing work for hire books with characters that we don't own. We're meeting deadlines that we can't meet, and they're screaming at us over this.
Jim Lee was slow even back then.
Jim Lee was slow. Todd McFarlane was slow too.
Yes, Todd was slow. Larson was the quickest of the bunch.
But we're working
And Sylvester.
basically under, and these are Todd's words, plantation conditions.
He said that.
So why don't we get together and publish our own books? And so they went to Tom DeFalco, four of them, not all seven, four of them. Will Spartaccio didn't because his sister had gotten sick by this point.
Again, the forgotten member of Image.
And I don't think Jim Valentino was actually on board this. He came on board
he came in
after
later.
that. But they went to go see Tom DeFalco, and they said, look, here's the deal. We're leaving. We don't like the way we've been treated here. We don't like the way you guys pay us.
What? You forget, they also talked to Jack Kirby before
Did
they
they?
made
Did they talk to Jack?
Yeah, this popped up about a couple months ago.
Kirby was sort of like the
Mentor.
linchpin,
He was the mentor.
the teller.
Really?
He told him to go for it.
Go for it.
Back in the shooter era, which might have something to do with this, back in the shooter era, there was some sort of birthday thing or something with Jack that Marvel didn't recognize and that DC did. And there were a bunch of ads in the fan publications at the time. It's Marvel's 50th anniversary or something. How about Jack? Or where's Jack? Or what's going on with Jack? Marvel was going out of its way to ignore Jack. They had just shown him the door in the late 70s after he came back and did Black Panther and Devil Dinosaur and all that stuff.
Fantastic Four.
And he had left and started his own company. Or I shouldn't say started his own company. He went to work for Pacific. With Silver Star and Captain Victory and a couple other books. And he was busy doing that. So he had already sort of gone this independent route. 6 or 7 years before these Image creators, got pissed off and talked to Jack. So I'm sure that Jack said, well, this is what I did.
Go for it.
You should go for it.
Do it.
Marvel's treated him. I don't think he was very happy with Marvel at this point either.
I think they did talk to DC too.
And that's part of it.
Yes.
And that's one of the interesting things about this. They made a point of going to Marvel and saying, look, this is our list of grievances, and we're going to tell you we're never going to work for you again, and we're leaving. Then they went over to DC, who none of them were working for at the time.
No. Although most of them had started at DC.
Well, yes, Todd McFarlane did work at DC.
So did Eric Larson did.
Eric Larson did work at DC,
and Jim Lee had.
He didn't.
Or Valentino didn't, but they were like, we worked there, we had no problem working there. In fact, when Todd McFarlane worked over at DC, people went, what the hell's wrong with this guy's art?
Well, McFarlane worked on Infinity Incorporated and Invasion.
Yeah.
The Invasion miniseries, which was almost an event, but it sort of wasn't.
It was one of those events that they went, this event? And people went, we just don't care.
Well, it wasn't as bad an event as War of the Gods.
No.
Which was a total cluster.
Oh, wow.
That was a total cluster. No. But Invasion actually did, and not to sidetrack off of Image, but Invasion actually did do something as it introduced the idea of...
Dominator.
No, not just the Dominators, but it also introduced the idea of the metagene in the DC universe. Everybody in the DC universe is born with a metagene, and that's the reason why we have superheroes. It activates in some people, and it doesn't activate in others. You get hit by a bolt of lightning with a bunch of chemicals splashing on you, it comes on.
Or you die.
Or if your name is Rex and you're crawling through a pyramid and you grab the orb of Ra,
you become metamorphosis.
The metagene helps trigger it off. And Todd McFarlane was the artist on that series. But Todd McFarlane was also the artist on the first, I'm not sure if it was first issue of Batman Year 2.
Yeah, because he ended up leaving after. No, I think he did more than one issue. I think he did two.
That has...
And then he sort of wandered away.
If you ever get a chance, look up the creative staff on Batman Year 2. Almost every issue had a different creator on it. Almost every creator that was on the book was a big name at some point.
Oh, yeah, it was a big deal.
But the storyline was a mess.
In fact, people go, I don't even remember that.
Anyway, so they went to DC and they said, look, we're never working for you again. And DC said, okay, well, you're not working for us.
You don't work for us now, so why are you talking to us?
So thanks for stopping by. Take care. See you later. Bye.
Security!
Yeah, security. And in 1992, they formed the Image 7. The Image 7. The idea behind the Image 7 was that Image would not own any of the creators' work. The creators would, so it would all be creator-owned stuff. Whatever they came up with, they would own, lock, stock, and barrel. No Image partner would interfere creatively or financially with any other partner's work. So if you're over in your studio over here, Okay, and I'm in my studio. I'm not going to bother you, and you don't bother me, and I'm not going to tell you you should do this, and you're not going to tell me I should do that. We're basically little islands in and of ourselves. The Image Company would not own any intellectual property at all. That would all be owned by the individual studios. And except for the company trademark, which is the eye, the Image Eye, that's the only thing, the logo, that was the only thing that would be owned. Yeah. And the logo was designed by a guy named Hank Kanelitz, who was a writer. Now, the Image 7, which was Rob Liefeld, Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Will Sportasio, Jim Valentino, and Mark Silvestri, when they left, each one formed their own studio eventually. The slow guy in that group was Will Sportasio. Yeah. He didn't form his own company.
No. His sister was sick, and so he wasn't really business savvy at all.
Well, he was sort of a technical partner in the group. Yeah. Now, each of those creators, they when they left, they created their own studio. Rob Liefeld created Extreme Studios. Eric Larson did Highbrow Entertainment. Yeah. Todd McFarlane did, of course, Todd McFarlane Productions. Jim Lee did Wildstorm. Mm-hmm. Jim Valentino did Shadowline. Yeah. And, of course, Mark Silvestri did Top Cow. Yeah. Now, today, Top Cow is still with us. Mm-hmm. Wildstorm is still with us.
Yeah, it's still with us. He's just over
in one way, shape, or form.
Jim Lee went, screw this. I'm going back to work over there.
I'm going to get a check.
Yeah, I'm going to get a regular check.
Shadowline shows a pulse once every year or so.
Shadowline
for a couple of beats.
Shadowline basically turned into Image Central.
Sort of, kind of.
Well, no, it was.
Yeah.
Jim Valentino was responsible for all these offshoot books that weren't part of the studios. And that's what kept it going. And then when he brought in Kirkman, then Kirkman ended up taking over what's called Image Central. Yeah. So Valentino was the guy making the trains run on time because Valentino realized he was an average artist and he was a decent writer, but no one was going to, hey, Jim Valentino's new book's in. Okay. Nobody cared.
I mentioned before when I would pick up the books over at Friendly Frank's that we would talk about stock prices. Mm-hmm. The week that this news broke, because that's the thing, Marvel was a publicly traded stock. The week when this news broke that this brain drain, this talent drain, was leaving Marvel, Marvel's stock dropped $3 a share. Yeah, it did. Just based on that story. And I'm not sure where it was at that point, but they were probably somewhere around $30, $40 a share.
Yeah, you had all the guys that were working on these big books. Now the bonus to the Image leaving is, if they had left, the Kubert brothers wouldn't be working now.
Well,
no. The Kubert brothers.
Joe Kubert was their dad. They would have had a job.
No. And both the Kubert brothers got, and Greg Capullo. All these guys were brought in to replace them on the X books. This is where all those guys started.
And when that happened, they started seeing them because I remember Capullo was doing Quasar for some reason. Yeah. It was a nice looking book when it came out. Yeah. And it came out and he met his deadlines. And all of a sudden, he gets a call from McFarlane. And McFarlane goes, you know what? I'm not feeling drawn anymore. How'd you like to take over?
Yeah, I can't follow my deadlines. And I already know I can't write for crap. Why don't you come over here and work on Spawn? Because I've already ticked off Brian Bendis so he left. You know? And I've already ticked off all the other people who worked in the book. I can't draw anymore, and I couldn't hit a deadline to save my life.
Now, Rod, I'd mentioned before that you were in the trenches for this. Now, in 1992, what were you doing?
I was working at a competitor who shall remain nameless.
Oh, you can say Sensation Comics Comic Shop.
Yeah, Sensation
Comics, yeah.
Yeah, I was working there.
Now, they had multiple locations. Which one were you at?
Calumet City one.
Okay.
Now, this was before the internet, so...
I assume you guys carried some sort of catalog.
Previews.
There were two. Remember, there were two
previews,
catalogs.
There was previews.
And you could buy those catalogs on newsstands.
And I remember the previews catalog, and on the cover, matter of fact, previews actually made it a habit to put the Image characters on there.
Yeah, was it Wildcats one of the first?
Wildcats? No, the first one was Spawn.
Okay.
Because McFarlane did $7 million or something like that.
Something like that. The Todd McFarlane first issue.
Yeah, the first issue of Spider-Man.
Yeah, with the gold cover that everybody.
Don't get me started on that. And then remember, it was the first issue, and then he had this character Spawn and said, "Okay, this guy looks like a cross between what he was doing the Spider-Man pose, but he had him dressed up like Batman."
He's Spider-Man and Doctor Strange.
Before you get any further with that, the actual order that they came out was Rob Liefeld's Extreme Studios was the first one out the door with Youngblood. Youngblood was the very first thing they did comic book racks. The second book was Eric Larson's Savage Dragon. And I'm not sure, I think the first 3 issues was a mini-series. Didn't they relaunch it again after that?
Yes, yes, they did. I remember that.
The third book out of the gates was Spawn. And the fourth book out of the gates was Jim Lee's Wildcats for Wildstorm. And they came out in that order, those first 4 books that they did. So you had Youngblood, Savage Dragon, Spawn, and Wildcats. So the first one you would have gotten was Youngblood.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember going through it and going, okay.
You were all life-filled out at that point, weren't you?
Well, you know what? The thing about it was that they not only wanted to own their own property, but wanted to get the money.
They wanted to write their own property.
Not only that, they said, we don't need an editor telling us how to do the book.
Right.
If we want to do so-and-so like this, we're going to do it like this. And that's sort of started off with Spider-Man when McFarlane was doing the storyline with the lizard. And he basically turned the lizard into what? A flesh-eating, whatchamacallit.
Doesn't he at some point eat his own kid?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he does.
He did. He ate young Billy.
Yeah.
Poor Billy. He ate him. Yeah. And parents were actually sending letters to letters page. Dear Marvel, we will not be buying this book. You have this guy here, the lizard, and my son picked this book up, and I am absolutely appalled, and I would never buy this book again. And McFarlane they actually stuck McFarlane to answer the letters page, and he's going, you know what? He was okay at first, then he started getting Todd McFarlane.
Yeah, he turned into Todd.
And what I mean by Todd McFarlane was he became overbearing, he became sarcastic, and some of the letters on there was like a joke, and they was basically saying, you know what? We can't have our flagship character in a storyline where he's fighting a guy that's basically a flesh-eating monster or something like that. Yeah, and then the thing was the Ghost Rider and a child killer, and they would say, okay, you know what, McFarlane, we're gonna put Larson on Spider-Man.
I thought Sylvester did work on Ghost Rider. Was it Larson?
No, this was the team up. The next issue was a 6-part team up.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
With Spider-Man and Ghost Rider, because Ghost Rider was becoming popular then, but it was about a child killer.
Marvel Team Up had already gone to meet its maker by this point, so Marvel was rolling in occasionally guest stars with Spider-Man to keep the whole Team Up vibe going.
Yeah. Okay. And they kept going, oh, this is not an adult book. Okay,
but Todd said, I can do whatever I want. I'm Todd McFarlane.
Yeah. And they said, okay, because then they got to the point where, okay, but Spider-Man, you have him posing with his hand where a hand shouldn't be at, and there's webs coming out of there. I mean, it got to the point where Todd just said, you know what, I don't have to put up with this. I'm not even making, making so-and-so off of this, but I don't even own this freaking character.
Well, this gets back to working conditions, which is one of the reasons why Todd left. And the working conditions being, I don't have the creative freedom
I can do what I
to
want.
Make the lizard a cannibal and have him eat his kid. Now, okay, if you're a creator, you can make an argument where that is something that's valid to do. Yeah. If you can justify it in the story, okay, you can make an argument like that.
Yeah.
The problem with that is when you're working in someone else's backyard,
playing
with their toys.
I'm trying to sell these action figures and Toys R Us, and you can't do this.
Exactly.
But you know, I remember most about.
I think Toy Biz was doing Marvel's action figures at the time. They should have sold. Showed a lizard with a hat with a half-eaten kid.
What I remember most about Todd McFarlane's first issue of Spawn, I remember reading it and going, this guy can't write for crap.
Yes. That because he had no editorial. It was almost like
the dialogue was horrible.
I'm gonna tell you this where the music thing comes in with the image thing. Prince, artist I love to death, but Prince needed an editor because
Prince would go, I'm doing an album,
and it would say
75 songs. Like, you can't do an album with 75 songs.
And it would say written, produced, performed, and arranged by Prince. McFarlane, the image character, they say written by Todd McFarlane, drawn by Todd McFarlane, colored by Todd McFarlane, editor Todd McFarlane.
It was a Todd McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane production.
Yeah, and not to pick on him, not to single him out, because Jim Lee was also guilty of the same thing too with Wildcats.
But Jim Lee knew he couldn't write.
Jim Lee didn't care. Jim Lee said,
I'm here to draw.
He said, I'll get the X-Men guys over here to Wildcats.
Right.
And the X-Men guys go and read Wildcats, and they go, when does Jim Lee come back on X-Men? Yeah. This is what I'm hearing in the store, and I'm cracking up. I'm going, those guys aren't coming back. Right. They're gone. They started another cup.
They're gone.
Okay, but when does Jim Lee come back on X-Men?
He's not coming
because I'm
back.
not picking up. I don't want Wildcats. And the other thing about the whole image thing, the books wasn't on time.
Well, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that.
No. I call that the promise of image.
It's a promise of Image.
The books never shipped on time.
Here's the thing with Image. It comes down, as far as the industry is concerned, for me, this has always been the crux of the Image problem or promise, depending on how you look at it, depending on which side of the coin you're on. They were tired of work for hire.
Right.
Okay, so they want to do their own stuff.
But what happened, though? They ended up doing work for hire anyway.
Well, yeah.
Yes. They were against it.
Todd said
then they realized we can't write, we can't draw. So we're just going to do the same thing that Marvel was doing that we were ticked off about.
So in other words,
you moved from one plantation to creating your own.
In other words, you said you let the inmates run the asylum, and it's still the asylum.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
But what I was saying before is the crux of all this is when you're picking up a book, what are you picking up? Okay, what are you picking up? Are you picking up The Amazing Spider-Man or are you picking up Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man?
You're picking up The Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay, the idea behind the Image creators were, what they had in their head was, we have made X amount of dollars for you guys, and we're going to leave, and that is going to collapse. Especially Todd McFarlane said, your whole house of cards is going to collapse.
Oh, I remember
that. Because people are buying us, they're not buying the character. And the thing that they always lost sight of was, people buy the character.
Yeah.
They're not buying the artist. Now, you might have people who migrate from book to book to book to book. There are John Byrne fans out there that do that.
Yeah.
There are John Byrne fans who, when he left the X-Men, started buying Fantastic Four.
Right.
When he left the Fantastic Four, they started buying Superman.
Right.
When he left Superman, they started buying She-Hulk when he comes back to Marvel. When they leave She-Hulk, they might go back to Doom Patrol.
Right.
But they would follow wherever he wound up at.
John Byrne.
Whatever, they would follow John Byrne. It doesn't matter what the hell he's doing. These same people would buy Star Trek from IDW that John Byrne would do.
I mean, those IDW
they don't care about Star Trek anymore than they cared about Superman.
No,
but what they care about is John Byrne.
Books, they sucked.
The characters are more important than the talent is, because talent comes and goes. You look at any character. Superman, perfect example. Batman is too. You have 75 years of publishing. You have fallow periods, and you have creative periods. Right. For every Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil period, you've got a 50s Batman in a rainbow costume period. Okay, for every
Superman red, Superman blue.
Yeah, Superman. Well, actually, that's actually would be creative. That would actually be creative, but you're getting into apples and oranges. I don't want to get into a Superman thing. But for every creative period you have long stretches of fallow period, but people buy the book. Yeah. You might have more people buying the book based on certain creators.
Tommy was drawing it. Hey, I'm gonna buy it.
But the book doesn't go away just because somebody leaves for whatever reason they leave.
No, they didn't stop publishing Spider-Man when Todd left.
No. Okay, we'll go down the list. They didn't start publishing Amazing Spider-Man. Nope. They didn't stop publishing Spider-Man, Todd's book. They didn't stop publishing X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine. Guardians of the Galaxy eventually went away.
Yeah,
but it went away after 5 more years.
Right.
And then it keeps coming back and going and back and going. It was basically a B-level team. Yeah. Same with X-Force. X-Force did not go away.
No.
Okay, when Rob Liefeld left the book.
I think it was Adam Kubert.
Yeah. Right. It would come and go. People buy the book.
Right.
But the Image 7, their attitude was, people are buying us. And yes, people will follow you to Image, but they won't deal with your bullshit forever.
People will follow you to Image, but when you got to the point where Spawn number 4 would ship
and that's the
in June,
that's the bullshit.
And Spawn number 5 would ship in November, you go, why do I care anymore? You can't hit a damn deadline.
And that's the problem. And that's the problem when you get 7 creators together and they decide they're going to start their own company, because life is hard working at Marvel or DC or any structured company, and we need the creative freedom to do what we want.
So in other words,
that runs right up against Rodney, Rod Flash, and Bo wanting their damn books every month.
Right.
Where is my book?
That comes down to the old story of when Kevin McGuire was doing covers. He'd regularly always go, sit the hell down, draw me 10 covers, and you're not leaving until I get them.
But you know what? Image.
And then he'd do Trinity Angels, where all he had to do was draw heads and shapes and not draw any costumes.
Right. But
and he'd say, well, they're all white.
But they would drag it in the office and go, look, you owe 12 covers a month. You're going to sit until they're all in. Okay, in Image, there was no one telling them they had to hit any deadlines. Because they were all working out of their houses.
Not only that, I remember specifically they were in California.
Yeah.
And they all had, like you said, is working in houses. And one of my earliest memories was when I first started working at a store. We went to the Comic Con that was at Rosemont. Mm-hmm. Now you had to Marvel, your DC, your little independent. all of a sudden you have to get a special ticket.
Yeah.
And they made it like a rock star thing.
Yeah.
Like, we got the Image 7. I never forget, it was, matter of fact, they even put them on the program. At the front of the program, the Image 7. Line up here, but you have to be at a certain time in a certain place. While you standing your butt in line, I need to get so-and-so time, get pictures here, and go talk to this person here. So why you guys leave Marvel? Oh, well, because they was treating us like slaves. Well, here, pick up so-and-so. Okay, well, when does this book come out?
Whenever the hell I feel like
whenever I get around
they never said that. They had these.
It's essentially what they were. That's what they were telling you.
They was treating it sort of like, and I think,
like a hobby
instead of a business. And they were also running it like what independent bands do now. This little street team. They had these little girlies dressing, wearing Image shirts and stuff over there, passing out flyers and everything. You say, okay, when's the next issue of Youngbloods coming out? And he would look at you funny and go, it'll be out soon. And then soon end up becoming 4 months later. Yeah. And by me working in the store, I start getting the calls and stuff like, okay, when's the next so-and-so book coming out? I don't know, but you can, the whole try back next week. And I can't say for certain. I remember specifically that Diamond catalog at the time basically said that this has been going on for so long. If your book is not ready 3 months in advance, we won't put it in there. But for some reason or another, Image had been like the
money.
Yeah, the chasm that basically split everything over, and they just kept printing it over and over. Oh, that was countless books that was supposed to come out that didn't come out till the next year.
You would say that with your Diamond catalog, and what I do is, book shows up, I just cross it off in pen, and I throw the catalog away. The Image thing, I'm like, well, half this crap never showed up. I'm throwing the calendar away anyway because I don't know when it's going to show up. What was the miniseries that the 2 issues?
Image United.
Image United. That was the last
Todd never bothered to do his part.
Yeah.
No, that's what happened to him.
Yeah, he never bothered to draw his part.
That was in the mid-2000s. Yeah. This is 10 years later.
Yeah, it's Image United.
Now, 92 was when all this happened. 93, when they left, they didn't have a publishing house.
No.
There was no Image.
No.
I mean, there was, but they had no way to publish books. Yeah. There was no infrastructure. So they had Malibu Comics publishing all of their books for the first year. For that first year, Malibu Comics outsold DC. Yeah. Now, they only did that because they're publishing the Image books, and they weren't their books.
No.
They were just publishing them.
We need to get them to the stores, and you're our best outlet.
Yeah, and Image was paying Malibu, to do this. So, I mean, Malibu was making a buttload of money. In 94, which is 2 years down the road now, that's when the shipping delays really start to crop up. And it's also the point where the different studios, Extreme, Highbrow, not so much Todd, Wildstorm, Shadowline, Top Cow, they started reaching out to other creators, to beef up the line. Yeah. You got some book you want to do, and we'll do it for you, like the Max. Yeah. Sam Keith had the Max. Well, where do I get this published at? He went over to Image, and it got published there. Same with The Pit, with Dale Cowan's Pit. The Pit. Yeah, Dale Cowan, but he wanted to do his own book, and he wound up over at Image.
Infrequently as well.
Jay Lee came in with Hellshock.
Yeah.
This is when Astro City first appeared too. Kurt Busiek and Brent Anderson and Alex Ross, they started the whole Astro City thing with Image back in 94, 95 to beef up the line.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, this is when the delays that you were just talking about, it's when they really became prevalent. At one point, 17 of the 36 books that Image was soliciting were going to be late. Over half their output was going to be late.
And that's when you had like Todd going, I can't write, so let me bring in people like Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore. Yeah. I can't write. I like to do a Sam and Twitch book. I can't write it. I'll bring in Brian Michael Bendis, who was screwed over and left.
Well, but he did a Sam and Twitch book for like 60 issues.
Yeah, he did a book for a while.
He did a long run on Sam and Twitch. Run.
Yeah. So they started bringing in outside people to work on the book.
And the history of Brian Bendis, he started off at Caliber.
Yeah, he did.
He started off at Caliber doing, I forget the name of it, Goldfish. It was one of his books. One of his books was Goldfish. And Todd picked him up because he was a good writer and nobody knew him. Yeah. And Bendis made his bones off of Sam and Twitch for like 65 issues.
Bendis
he wasn't happy with how he was being treated. No. So he left and wound up at Marvel, and the rest, as they say, is history. Yeah. But McFarlane was the guy that brought him from Indies into Image, which catapulted him then to Marvel.
Sam and Twitch actually shipped on time.
Sam and Twitch shipped on time. Spawn didn't.
No. Spawn. Remember the clock? Yeah.
Yes, the rundown.
Yeah, about 6 years and ask her the clock.
McFarlane came up with this brilliant idea. He said that every time Spawn, the character, would use his power,
he lost life.
He would lose life, and slowly but surely he would go back to hell if the clock went down to 0.
And then Todd went, wait a minute, that means the character would have to die at some point.
Wait a minute, that's a stupid idea.
No, wait, he got himself out of it a couple of times. He was being smart. This is where Todd started getting savvy. So he said, okay, I'm going to start putting guns on them. So then all of a sudden, he took a page out of his buddy, Rob Liefeld, and you see Spawn with pouches on there for what? And there he is with a gun on there.
I don't carry guns. I can't use my powers because it'll kill me.
You need pouches, though?
Well, if you hang around with Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld.
You only need pouches on your thighs.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, that's a Jim Lee thing.
And the book just kept getting later and later and later.
Until you got to the point where people went, I don't give a crap.
By 96, the joke had become in the industry. Spawn billed itself as being the #1 selling book in comics. There's a reason for that. Now, I don't know how long you were working at Sensation Comics, but I figured it out pretty quick on in the first year or two. Every issue of Spawn, no matter what he did, was going to be late. If you look at the racks, let's say issue 24 is on the rack right now. You open up your previews catalog, they're soliciting for issue 35.
Yeah.
There is nothing in this world that's going to happen that's going to get 10 issues of that book out in 2 months.
Oh.
So, according to Image, okay, any book that's late, if you miss a deadline, those are grounds for a return. So everybody knew Spawn is returnable.
Yeah.
Infinitely
Every
returnable.
single issue.
Infinitely returnable.
Yeah.
So if let's say I'm selling 50 copies of Spawn, but sometimes I sell 60 copies of Spawn. Sometimes I sell 70 copies of Spawn, and sometimes I sell 40 copies of Spawn. Depends on what way the wind's blowing, but somewhere in there I'm selling that many. But if I order 80 copies of Spawn, my ass is covered. If you want to walk in the door and look for Spawn 3 months from now, I got it, because I ordered 80. And here's the thing. Those 80 issues of Spawn, those are all going to be returnable at some point. So when the return form comes up, it goes, oh, issue number 29, and it's returnable. And I can send back 80 copies. What do I have on the rack? 30 copies. Out they go. Strip the cover, send them back, get credit for it, and you just keep perpetually doing it, which is why Spawn got to be the #1 selling comic for like a decade. Okay, when it wasn't selling the #1 numbers. The sales figures were all bullshit for Spawn because every dealer out there was ordering way more than they needed. Because it was friggin' Spawn, and there's no way in hell it won't be returnable.
Yeah.
I remember that.
He ran this until like issue 75 or 80 before he started to actually catch up with his deadline and decide he was going to be an adult in publishing this damn thing.
And I think he brought in Brian Hogan or someone else to write the book and someone else to draw the book.
Yeah.
And then the book started shipping.
Then it started shipping on time.
It started shipping twice a month for a while.
We need to catch up because we are so far behind.
Until he caught up, and that's when all the retailers go, oh, it's time to get serious about Spawn numbers.
Okay, so we can order 20.
And that's when Spawn stopped being the #1 selling comic. But anyway, going back to the timeline, in 1995, Larry Mander, who did Tales of the Bean World, he was hired by the Image guys because the company was sort of floundering. Yeah. Not that they weren't making money.
There were no adults in the room.
But there were no adults in the room running the thing. And people like Jim Valentino said, there's no adults in the room. What the hell are we going to do? So they hired...
And he knew Martyr because he worked on Bean World with him.
They hired Martyr to be the executive director, and essentially his job was, as executive director, to direct the executives. He's the guy that would go around and say, this book going to be ready anytime soon? No? Okay, good. Give me an idea when. Okay, fine, I will tell them. So at least there were lines of communication being set up between distributors to customers to retailers.
So they hired him as a middleman.
A middleman. Okay. He didn't have a lot of power, but what he could do was he could at least clear up the lines of communication.
He can go, look, this book's not going to ship for 3 months.
Then in 1996, the Image 7 broke up over Rob Liefeld and Maximum Press.
Yes.
The Image creators felt that Rob Liefeld...
The nerve of you!
He started with Extreme, and then he created yet another imprint, Maximum Press. And there's probably a variety of reasons for that, one of them being bankruptcy. Yeah. But anyway, in 96, the Image 7 break up over Rob Liefeld and Maximum Press. And he eventually leaves the company, / asked to leave, / we're throwing you out on your ass. Or you can leave ahead of time before we throw you out on your ass.
No, that became public. I remember
it was quite public.
It was public. I remember they were doing an interview and McFarlane does like this, slams his hand on the table. being McFarlane. Let me tell you something right now. That kid will never work with us again. He was the one who came up with the idea. What they say.
And he was the one. And he was the one. Honestly, his books were shipping closer on time than most of theirs.
His art was horrible, but yeah.
Well, yeah, his art was horrible because his characters got bigger. But yeah, the books were shipping more on a regular basis.
In '97, Valentino, as one of the Image 7, now 6, he started making a concerted effort to bring folks from the outside, not just big names, but lots of people, creators, come to us. And this was the beginnings of Image Central.
And his books shipped on time.
And the Image Central books shipped on time, yeah. Now, as far as creativity goes, you can go back and forth with whether or not they ever should have been published in the first place.
There were a couple of those. You go, what the hell did you think? Was Bug one of those books?
Yes.
Yeah, Bug was one of those
yes.
books.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow.
There's a couple other.
What he put together wound up becoming the business unit of Image. If we're going to keep this company alive as opposed to the different studios that are islands, Image is actually going to exist.
I need to have books show up on the stands every week.
Well, we have to have books show up. They have to show up on time. They have to be books people give a damn about. And we're going to stick an eye on them, okay? And they'll say Image. And people hopefully will buy into that because if we've developed anything over the last 5 years, we've developed, Image means artistic quality. Right. Remember that one convention we went to and I talked to that one female creator? You were with me, Little Red Hot.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I made her cry or something.
Yeah, you did something. You hurt that poor girl's heart.
You made a woman cry to come.
It wasn't my intention.
It wasn't his, but she made Little Red Hat creators cry.
Little Red Hot was an Image book. It was a female writer. I forget what the hell she was. She was a witch or something, I think.
Yeah.
And we were walking around the tables at the con, and we come across the book, and she came up and she said, "Hi, how you doing? Hi, how you doing?"
He made her cry.
And you feel fine. How are you doing? We talked for a little bit back and forth. He said, "How do you like my book?" "Oh, you own a store. Do you sell at your store?" "Well, yes, I do." He says, "Well, is it a big seller there?" I said, "Well, no, not really." Yeah, and he said, well, why not? And I said, well, and I started listing the reasons why.
Oh,
I didn't think
yeah,
it was a big seller. And you know, her face just started to drop.
Her face melted.
And it wasn't my intention to upset her, but if you're
being honest.
I'm assuming, okay, you're supposed to tell girls what they want to hear. That's the rule in dating. Okay, do I look fat? Of course you do. Of course you don't look fat.
The truth.
That's my problem.
Am I pretty? Of course you're pretty. When you're a retailer and you're a creator, I assume you want the truth. Yeah. We're not dating. I'm buying your books. I'm paying for your books.
You saying hello and talking, and then I'm going to walk away, and I'm never going to see you again.
I am putting the books on my shelves, and you probably don't get a chance to talk to a lot of retailers, so I will tell you exactly what I think of your book.
You broke that girl's heart.
And I think I broke her heart. To this day, that still bothers me, and I'm sorry for that. I can't remember her name for the life of me.
Why? Because
after Little Red Hat went away, after the book stopped being published, she never worked in comics again.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So that might have been me, although I hope it wasn't me. I hope it wasn't.
I'm assuming she just got a regular job.
Well, that might have happened too. She, her life might have gone on.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where you could just tell, and Little Red Hat was an Image Central book. Yeah. You could just tell it was one of those books that she poured her soul into. Heart and
soul into. He broke that girl's heart.
And I was...
Okay, what was the reason told her why?
Oh, God, I don't remember now. We're talking about 12 years ago.
Did you ever read Little Red Hat?
Or 14 years ago.
No.
I think it was color covers. I'm not sure if it was black and white material. Image Central did do black and white.
It was color. It was color.
It was color.
Okay.
It was color. But then again, I'm not the audience for Little Red Hat, so that's
so it's sitting in somebody's small box somewhere.
I'm assuming I might have one issue in my collection.
Oh man!
Because I think I picked up at least one. No. I never picked up one. The book wasn't for me.
Anyway, continuing with the Image story, 1998, Wildstorm creates the Cliffhanger imprint, which is
Joe Madeira,
and
the Battle Chasers,
J. Scott Campbell, Danger Girl, and Humberto Ramos, which was the vampire book. Crimson. But Cliffhanger was a company within a company within a company.
It was a subdivision of the entire Wildstorm.
Yeah, Cliffhanger was a division of Wildstorm, which was part of Image.
And Battle Chasers never shipped on time because Joe Matt spent most of his time playing freaking videos.
He wanted to make the Battle Chasers into a video game.
He did.
Said, put the book out first, and then we'll see about
he put the cart way before the horse.
Oh, he put the video game out first, and then do the book.
Well, of those three names, the big one who I always had a problem with is J. Scott Campbell. He had a fire-breathing idea there, which was totally based on his art. and nothing else, because his fire-breathing idea didn't have a brain in its head.
No, it was.
But people bought that book because of the way it looked.
Girl. And J. Scott Campbell, as far as I know, is still working on that Spider-Man limited series with Jeff Lowe.
Limited series that never see the light of day.
He's still working on it.
J. Scott Campbell.
He does a lot of covers too.
J. Scott Campbell's Danger Girls was huge. You cannot believe how huge Danger Girls
that's
was.
when I was slowly.
Alex Garner was one of the guys who worked on it, and actually, if you read the book, it wasn't horrible, but you weren't buying it because of the story. You were buying it because of the art.
Well, it was James Bond with his three women running around getting in trouble, and they had a guy. They had a guy who was basically a throwaway character.
This was This is right around the time when Wildstorm weren't putting out books, and they started putting out swimsuit calendars. And
no. They weren't the only ones doing swimsuits.
I know. Marvel's a poor idea of coming up with that, but when those
Bill Willingham made his bones doing a swimsuit book.
Oh, okay, Elemental. But I remember that's when I was heading out of the selling business.
Marvel was doing swimsuit books back in the early 90s. Okay, and I don't think DC ever did swimsuit books, but other small press companies did swimsuits books back then too.
And swimsuit books were easy because it's like
they're just pinup books.
Draw a couple pinups.
Yeah,
that was pretty much Image Books at the time. Was just basically pinups.
A lot of Image books were just the pinups.
Well, people like Humberto Ramos, J. Scott Campbell, and Joe Mad on those three books in 1998 are a big part, not the whole part, because Jim Lee and Jim Lee's name was what put it over, but was a big part of the following year, DC Comics buying Wildstorm. At that point, I'm sure DC looked at Wildstorm, okay, and when the sale came up, hey, would you like to buy us? They looked at what they were doing, and they looked at Danger Girl's numbers, they looked at Crimson's numbers, they looked at Battle Chasers' numbers, the 2 issues that they got out, or 3 issues they got out, and Wildcats and everything else they were doing. It's like, this is like the jewel. This is like the jewel of this company.
This is the high point of this entire company, and then when they sold, then Jim Lee went, okay, I know I can't write, and I can't really draw a deadline, so I'm going to bring in guys like Warren Ellis and Mark Millar, and I'm going to do Authority and all that stuff. And people went, what the hell is this stuff?
But that's a whole other thing. But Wildstorm is gone from Image at this point.
And that was the moneymaker.
And that's when McFarlane came out and made the comment, I guess if you want to go back to being someone's slave and let your master take over.
Jim Lee owns a villa in Italy. He's not anybody's slave.
No, this is the comment. I know, but this is the comment McFarlane, because McFarlane was pissed.
Yeah.
He figured that, okay, me and Lee got together and we kicked out Liefeld. At least Lee knows what he's doing, but Lee was sort of like, he was like the perpetual teenager. Basically,
when you think about the smartest creators of that old group, Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld were the smartest ones. They knew this is only going to last so long. I'm going to work at other companies. Lee saw the writing on the wall
because they said the Rockstar like thing that Image was at, it's gonna die down.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, people are gonna want the books on time, and they're gonna want a coherent story.
And at that point, the books weren't on time still.
By the time of the Wildstorm sale, Todd McFarlane has turned into a toy manufacturer.
Yeah, and that's where he's making all his money now.
All of his
comics don't mean crap.
Well, all of his money, okay, that he was bringing in was not from the Spawn comic. No, it was from the Spawn action figures and whatever other action figure lines he was doing too.
Hockey, baseball.
Yeah, the sports stuff came a little bit later than this, but that's what would come. So I mean, it's not like he's this fire-breathing creator out there.
No.
So, Todd McFarlane only had one idea, and it was called Spawn.
Yeah, that was it.
And he rode that Spawn horse for everything it was worth. and people bought into that Spawn horse for everything. Well, lawsuits, that's a whole other thing. But he rode that horse for everything it was worth.
And Silvestri was just as smart, because Silvestri went over to Marvel and go, I could draw a couple books for you if you like. And they went, come on.
Yeah, you came out on time. So
right, your book's showing up on time. Come on.
Okay, once we get into the 2000s, after Wildstorm has left, Image loses its number 3 market share. Yeah. But what it does is it goes into a 3-way dance with Dark Horse and IDW. Sometimes it's number 4, sometimes it's number 3, sometimes it's even number 5, but it depends on what the other 2 companies are doing. And part of that was what you've been talking about, not getting the books out on time, losing Wildstorm, because when Wildstorm left, whatever income Wildstorm was generating, that left too.
All gone.
That was gone.
And people were buying all those Wildstorm books over at DC.
Well, initially, yeah. And then by 2004, Eric Larson replaced Jim Valentino as the publisher of the book, publisher of Image Central, I should say. If you take the other islands out, if you take the other studios out, and you just have Image Central, publisher of Image. Yeah. Eric Larson becomes it. That stays on until 2008, where Eric Stevenson, who is a writer who worked on Brigade, worked on Glory, worked on New Men, Prophet, Supreme before the Alex Ross.
These are all Rob Liefeld books, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
So yeah, Rob got back after all, didn't
he? He replaces Larson as the publisher. Yeah. And by the time you get to 2009, that's when Vertigo is on the decline. You've got creators leaving Vertigo and going to Image with books like Chew and Morning Glories and Fatale and Manhattan Projects, Saga. These folks are leaving what should be Vertigo with those books.
Those are Vertigo books.
And instead they're going over to Image because it's creator-owned. Yeah. You own these books. You have a choice, Mr. Vaughn. You can either do Saga at Vertigo and split the money with DC, or you can come over to Image and you do Vertigo and keep all the money.
No, you don't keep all the money.
You keep all the rights.
You're keeping all the rights. What you're ending up with is about 75% of the money. Image keeps 25%.
Well, they got to have something to keep the lights on.
Yeah,
you got to have something to keep the lights on.
Image takes a fair amount of money out.
So you got 75% on one hand and 25 or maybe 10.2% on the other hand.
You're going to go for the 75.
Yeah.
You're going to go for the 75.
And ever since, they've been at 10% or number 3 in the market share ever since, 10% plus of the market share ever since. They've been perpetually the third largest publisher ever since.
Because, they benefited on guys like...
Diversity.
No, they benefited because you had guys like Vaughn.
Well, creative diversity.
Right, yeah.
Rick Remender. Scott Snyder's working on Image books. Why the hell is he working on Image book when he works for DC? Really? Come on, that's stupid.
Well, partly because whatever books he's working on, he's able to keep the rights to.
Yeah, and that's what he's doing it. Yeah, so he's like, well, I'm great. I'm working on Batman and all this stuff, but I'm going to go over here because I keep all this money.
What's his big Vertigo book, Scott Snyder?
The Wake was pretty big. And American Vampire.
American Vampire. Yeah. What is American Vampire? Just a vampire book.
It's a vampire
It's
book.
Just a vampire book. There's nothing special about it. It's well written.
And well drawn.
It's well written. It's well drawn. But the title of the book is American Vampire. It might as well be on a white can with black stencil labeling on it that says American Vampire on the can. It's generic. I mean, it's a well done generic book. But it's a generic book.
And it also has
it's not Saga. It's not Manhattan Projects.
Right.
It's not. It doesn't have this big, overarching creative hook behind it. It's an American vampire. He could do Czechoslovakian vampire. It'd be the same thing. Well, it has a strong Czechoslovakian feel to it, and it's well written and it's well drawn. But it's not this big creative book. Okay, but Vertigo has it. So there you go. You guys read Image. What do you think of the stuff that they've been putting out over the last couple of years?
A lot of the new stuff that come out, I just look and go, I have no interest in that whatsoever.
The Image Central stuff.
Yeah.
Image to me is a more variety of instead of the same old superhero because the mold has already been set already. Yeah. Everybody else is just copying after. Image smartly enough came up with the idea. We may have some adults out there that want to read comics but don't want to read superheroes. So let's give them something different to read.
Which was Vertigo.
Unfortunately, Vertigo became... They didn't push themselves enough like Image did when Image books went over there. I actually saw a commercial for Saga, which cracked me up.
No. Really?
Yes.
A commercial an internet commercial? Or
no, this is a TV commercial.
Really?
And I'm cracking up because I'm going, oh my God, there's a commercial for Saga. There's a book for everybody on the Image thing. Mm-hmm. One of the best books I read in the past 10 years, it just finished up. It was a 5-issue miniseries from Image called God Country. Right. I just finished reading it. I said, this is a damn good book. Yeah. It's over and done right there. It came out on time.
Was it written by Donny Cates?
I believe so.
Yeah, he's a Marvel. He's now a Marvel exclusive.
Yeah, it's about and for people that know about God Country, it's about this old guy who had Alzheimer's, who apparently found a sword dropped down by some god in space, and every time he grabs a sword, he's 100% lucid, and it spoke to me on a different level because I have a family member that suffered from Alzheimer's, and I'm reading it and going through it, going, this book is absolutely fantastic. That's very hard to come out for a mini-series.
I think what's really weird about Image now is the original Image guys, no one gives a crap about any of their books.
No, they don't. They don't. Even when...
Spawn's just sort of there.
Todd McFarlane actually came back and started writing Image for like 40 or 50 issues. Yeah. Nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
The sales blipped. If I was selling 25 copies of Spawn, I sold 28 copies of Spawn.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just a blip.
I mean, Savage Dragon ships on time. Well, moderately on time. And it's a good book, and I keep getting it, but, it's not like, wow, this is a great book.
Well,
most of the Image books that are out there that I get, they're all the books written by the other people.
I was talking about Spawn, and Todd McFarlane wrote in on Spawn, and he rode that horse to death. Eric Larson did the same thing with Savage Dragon. Yeah. The difference between the two is Todd McFarlane put together something that he wanted to sell. Yeah. Eric Larson is doing something that he's cared about, going all the way back to when he was in high school. He was doing Savage Dragon comics in high school.
I saw. I talked to him at a con. He was basically talking about how he was getting in trouble for drawing Savage Dragon. He kept saying over and over, I got this character called Savage Dragon. And they said, does it breathe fire? No. What is he? He's a police officer, but he has a fin on his head. He's green, and it's like, wait a minute, why is he called Savage Dragon? Because it's my character.
Because it's my character, and he's got a fin.
Yeah, and he's basically stuck. It's like coming up with your own character as a 2 year, as you're 5 years old or something. Oh, look, I'm drawing this, and then when you get the money to do it, he's stuck by it. So you can tell pretty much Larson loved the character, and he wants to see it.
And Larson makes it a point to not, Larson really only does one book.
Actually, in the time that he's been with Image, he's actually gone back to Marvel and drawn Thor for a fairly long stretch to make some money in order to keep Highbrow Studios going.
Yeah,
because you only make so much off of Savage Dragon, even though he owns it.
Yeah, he owned it because he tried to do a couple books that were not Savage Dragon, and people went, "You don't care."
Yeah, he's got this Patriot thing that he does that nobody buys. Super Patriot. Yeah, Super Patriot.
Yeah, so and all these guys did that. I mean, Lee's doing variant covers now. It's like, don't you work for DC? Yeah. Sylvester's went back off, and Larson's go back. Todd won't, but at some point you're gonna go, dude, what the hell else do you have going for yourself? Nobody gives a crap about Spawn. You keep talking about the movie. Nobody cares.
Well, the infamous lawsuits that keep hitting
that too. Yeah, Tony Twist. Tony Twist and Neil Gaiman. Yeah,
Neil Gaiman hit him for $9 million, and then
that gets into Todd McFarlane's.
Yeah,
and this show's been about Image, and I do want to mention, because I need to wrap this up. I do want to mention the elephant in the room, which I have not mentioned. Okay, as far as Image goes,
is it Wolf Portacio has basically with witness protection?
No. The elephant in the room, as far as Image goes, which we have not mentioned at all, which I have not mentioned on purpose for a reason. Robert Kirkman and The Walking Dead. Yeah. I haven't mentioned that at all because we're going to do a Walking Dead show coming up at some point. I want to save it for that. But one of the people who took over Image Central was Robert Kirkman, and Kirkman has been running it now for the last couple of years. Yeah. The last person I mentioned was, who the hell was it? Eric Stevenson.
Yeah, because when you go to the San Diego con, Eric Stevenson always shows up the day before, and he basically, this is the state of Image. But he's also, you go, if you saw Eric Stevenson walking the street, you go, who the hell is that? You wouldn't even recognize him. Kirkman, you kind of recognize.
Kirkman's in charge.
Yeah, Kirkman basically, he followed, because Kirkman is the guy who started out with stuff, and stuff has to ship on time, and blah, blah, blah. And Walking Dead ships on time because he can write ahead of himself. Although he had a problem with Invincible for a while, it was off. And Charlie Adlard is a machine.
Yeah.
So boom, 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 boom.
Okay, but we're going to do a Walking Dead show at some point, and I want to save all of that for that. I do want to do a quick Rorschach test, though, before we get out of here.
Better not be a question about Wolf Portacio.
Oh no, this is going to be easy, and I don't want to go on real deep.
What about Larry
this.
Strowman?
First thing that comes to your mind.
Oh God, he still works.
First thing that comes in your mind. Cook County soda tax. Bo.
Against it.
A joke.
Okay, and that's it.
If I really want a Slurpee, I'll take the tax. Other than that, screw her. And I work for the county.
And he works for the county.
So she's going to be out of job next year then.
We don't like her. We never liked her before this. This just basically made her even more unlikable.
Dang. Oh, man.
It's part of the nanny state.
But I understand that.
You can't tell me I can't drink pop.
But you forget
No, nobody's telling you can't drink pop. No, they're telling you they're going to pay more.
No, they browbeat you with those commercials about...
Oh, my God. You know how many flyers I've gotten over that damn tax?
No,
I'm like, another one? Really?
Let me tell you what got me was the commercial about the kid sliding down the slide, and there's a garbage can full of pop cans over there. Said, this right here equals to 2 diabetic kids over there. I said, wait a minute, diabetes Hereditary thing on that. Nice try on that one.
As far as who cares about the soda tax, your Cook County property taxes could go up 50%. People would bitch, but nobody would say anything. I have seen people act like they are being dragged out the door, kicking and screaming, into a paddy wagon and being thrown into a deep hole for the rest of their life.
But see, you walk in the store and you go, I'm going to buy this 99-cent 2-liter property. It goes to be $1.85. You go, what?
They're going to make a ton more off of property tax, and nobody will bitch.
Well, yeah, and
people will grumble, people will complain, but they won't get on their high horse.
I don't have a big deal writing that damn check twice a year. It's a check. I'll write the damn check. What I don't want is I want to buy this bottle of pop.
That's the woman in the commercial.
It'll be $2.75. It's a bottle of pop.
That's the woman in the commercial. I am sick and tired of the government telling me what I should spend on my family.
Well, you know what my answer to that is? Water and coffee.
No. But if you want,
ain't no tax in either one of those.
I drink iced coffee, and if you get iced coffee, if I buy a can,
iced coffee is not coffee.
It's coffee.
No, it's not.
If I buy a can,
no, it's not. A milkshake is not an energy drink.
This is the thing about Frappuccino. I was telling him about that. He said, "No, it's not coffee.
It's not coffee.
Whipped.
It's brown crap.
It's coffee.
It's coffee whipped.
It's brown crap.
It's coffee.
Coffee is black and brown and in a cup, and it's hot, and it wakes you to hell up.
Of course, I also spent $4 for a bottle of Arizona iced tea at the airport. So.
Yeah, well,
no, it was not about that. The bottle says on down, she goes, and I look at her and go, are you out of your damn mind?
Fell for the tourist trap there.
No, I was thirsty in there when I was stuck.
I'm going out the water fountain. I'm sorry. I'm never buying anything at the airport again.
Oh, I don't.
Okay, and that's it. We are done. We're finished. We're out of here. We have no more show. Remember, folks, the Alternate Reality is being brought to you by Alternate Reality, which is located at the intersection of 111 and Kedzie in beautiful downtown Mount Greenwood. Alternate Reality, where all of your new comics are always 15% off every day for everyone.
When did this start?
New Comic Wednesday starts at 7 a.m. every Wednesday. All new comics.
I've been there.
New comics are up and ready to go at 7 a.m. As are our 25% off first issues. All first issues are always 25% off. So come on down, save some money, get your books first, and until next time, this is Comic Book Man. Rod, say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bo, say
goodbye. I want to get a nice coffee. So long, kids.
Bye.